Hello, I'm Dr. Alan Wolfelt, and I serve as director of the Center for Loss and Life Transition, located in the foothills just west of Fort Collins, Colorado. As you're probably well aware, holidays are a naturally difficult time for anyone who's experienced the death of someone loved. Allow me to remind you that the word bereavement literally means to be torn apart and to have some very unique needs. During this time of year, your friends, your family that have experienced life losses will no doubt need and appreciate companionship, support, love. Matter of fact, they need and deserve people willing to hold space, to bear witness, and to support them with unconditional love. Yes, they need someone who will, as I said in my recent book, stay for the cup of coffee. What follows are some practical, heart-based, here and now, what I like to call action-oriented tips that will hopefully encourage you to literally stay for the cup of coffee. As humans, we're social creatures. We need each other. In fact, it's our relationships with one another that I think give our lives the most meaning and purpose. But ironically, with the rise of digital technology and social media and our hyper-living, fast-paced culture, we actually run the risk of being more separated from one another than in any other time in our history. In addition, we now live in what's been termed by myself and other authors a fairly mourning avoidant, emotion phobic culture. In fact, we have among the shortest social norms of any culture in the world. We give you 3 days off work or school. It better be a biological, nuclear family relative. And then you're often approached and told things like, carry on, keep your chin up, keep busy, or worse yet, do you have closure? Closure is for windows and for doors. It reminds us that grief support requires presence. While texts, emails, phone calls are often good additions to the mix, it's really impossible to replace face-to-face, in-person time with someone who's been impacted by life losses. So as much as you can, I'd like to encourage you to be physically present to grieving people during the holiday season. I encourage you to consider creating hospitality. I personally believe hospitality was best defined in the helping literature years ago by Henry Nouwen, who said, hospitality is shared space where a stranger becomes a friend. Hospitality is a big part of staying for the cup of coffee during the holidays. It focuses outwardly on the needs of others. It ensures that they feel nurtured and well cared for. Yes, hospitality is central to being present to another human being who's been torn apart. So allow yourself to show up and to be there. There doesn't need to be an agenda. You don't need a specific reason to visit. Just be present. Keep in mind the principles of mouth closed, ears open, and presence is available as a wonderful starting point. And when you're present, pay attention. Strive for what we call immediacy. And that means that when you're with someone, you are totally and completely available to them. You're able to sit in that sacred silence and that stillness as you hold space for them. No, don't feel compelled to fill gaps in your interaction. Give the grieving person time and space to express whatever is in their head and on their heart. Strive to be among the helpful third, as I like to call it, because observational research shows that we can split each other into thirds when it comes to life losses. A third of people around you when you're in grief, well, they'll be neutral. They don't hurt you or help you. They say things like, well, if you need me, call me, but whoosh, they're out of there. You may never hear from them again. Another third are actually harmful. You feel worse after you're around them than you felt before. They're often well-intended, but they're fairly toxic at times, and the theme is they try to take your grief away from you. So we want to be able to aspire, particularly during this time of year, to be in the helpful third, the people that do no harm, but do in fact help. So when you're visiting with someone during the holiday season, what can you say to be in that helpful third? You can say, I'm here for you. I care about you. My hope is to be of support to you. So another thing to remember is don't be afraid to use the name of the person who died. Actually, we love to hear the names of those that go before us. So join the grieving person in remembering and honoring the life that was lived. Allow me the privilege of reminding you that the word honor literally means to remember the value of, to cherish, to hold dear. And another important thing to keep in mind this time of year is how natural it is that we might experience what are called grief bursts. And grief bursts are when we experience a heightened sense of loss that comes about. They're often tied to sensory experiences. You see something, a car drive by like they used to drive. You hear something, a special song comes on, and you go from head to heart. Smell is always very powerful as well. My grandma used to bake for me when I was a kid. You could smell her house a block away. Sometimes now, even years later, when I get out of my car in front of a bakery, I go right back to grandma making those lovely baked goods. Grief bursts reflect that the love we have for those that precede us in death, they're still an important part of our lives. It's the way they say in part, don't forget me, don't forget me. As the saying goes, death ends a life, not a relationship. So let the person in grief know that it's safe for them to express whatever they need to express. After all, mourning by very definition means the shared response to loss. They're taking what's inside outside as you stay present to them and bring them genuineness, empathy, and warmth. So when you strive to stay for that cup of coffee, you're not continuing on as if nothing has happened. Instead, you're acknowledging that the loss needs attention, that the grieving person needs others to be present and take pause with them, to slow down, to actually suspend, to not push forward, but instead to follow the instinct to, in fact, during this time of the year, go backward, to find comfort in sharing of memories. As Kierkegaard once said, when it comes to death, while life must eventually be lived forward, it's actually understood and given meaning to backward. So as you share memories, as you allow that person to teach you from the inside to the outside, you're helping them feel so much less alone and isolated at a time when they are at risk for that very thing. Another way to mourn during the holidays is through making use of ceremony. The holidays, they're a time that are often anchored in familiar rituals. We listen to the same music, we eat the same foods, we hang the same decorations. The grieving person may not feel up to doing some of those things this year, but you can help the mourner create their own rituals, ones that honor the lives of those that have gone before them. I often say when words are inadequate, have ceremony. Ceremony helps us know what to do when we do not know what to do. So perhaps you can host a candle lighting or maybe decorate an ornament in remembrance of the person who died. Let me, if I can, from my heart to yours, thank you for being a good friend to someone in grief during the holidays and throughout the year. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being present. Thank you for holding space. Thank you for making the world a better place. Thank you for being one of those who genuinely cares and strives, knowing we're never perfect, being that helpful third. As fellow human beings, we cannot cure each other, but we can always care for each other. Thank you so much for staying for the cup of coffee.